So when you have been in a situation like mine for the last 6 years, it helps to develop a sense of humor. And humor, believe it or not, got me through the circumstances that I've been in for the last 6 years. If it was not for my sense of humor, I'm not sure that I would have survived, and I barely did anyhow. Um, I'm Teresa. I work at the Seven Hills Day Center, but I also stay at the overnight shelter. So I'm still a client as well as an employee. And the last 6 years have not been easy. So if you find yourself depressed or you find yourself in bad circumstances, believe me when I say that I can relate. And I would like to just give a few ideas and share a few of the ways that I have coped through my humor. And I have done a lot of things, like whenever I had to push shopping carts with my things in it to move camps or to go places and have my stuff so it would not be stolen. And I was carrying heavy items or bags and dealing with all of the irritations in between, such as the elements, it being really hot or really cold. Those things are, of course, really aggravating and uncomfortable, and even more. Plus, the people in between who don't understand what you're going through, and you do run into judgment. And so, my coping mechanism became my humor, my main coping mechanism, because I was in an addiction and I used drugs, and that was a healthy way to cope. And eventually, that didn't work for me anymore. So also the anger outburst. For instance, I remember one winter whenever I had 3 coats on and I was wrapped in tablecloth, and it still didn't work. So I'm sitting there and I'm screaming at traffic, and I'm like, haven't you ever seen this before? What? It's the latest trend in fucking fashion, okay? Like, have you ever seen anybody in a tablecloth? But some of my hardest days make my funniest stories now. So I can also turn that into humor. But what I mean by turning things into humor is, like, whenever I was struggling and I was carrying heavy stuff and my bags would fall, I would start talking to them, Like, I'm telling you right now, if you don't stay there, you're not fucking coming with me. And I would go down the bike trails, and sometimes bike trails take you through paths like by apartment complexes. And if I was doing stuff late at night especially, I like to sing for everybody while I was going down those bike trails and serenade them. Also, I like to serenade traffic. And and I just imagine that I'm on a stage making this big performance as I sing. And sometimes I see people respond to me, and it's pretty funny, and so that's a good thing too. Other times, whenever I flew a sign, I would come up with something. Like one time I wrote "fuck my life" on a sign, and I actually had somebody reverse in traffic and come back to me and say, what does your sign say? But I hadn't been making money all day, and I received $5. Now, those of you who are watching, if you're offended by the fact that I've flown a sign in my life, I am sorry, but I really am not apologizing for anything that I've done as far as asking other people for help, because I believe in that. I believe that we are there to help one another, and I believe if I was the person in the car and somebody else was asking me for help, I would help as well. And how do I know this? Well, because I haven't always been homeless. Back to the humor. Well, I also like to make random little notes, like, remember, God is always watching you when you're masturbating, and really mess with people's heads and put it in places where they're going to think. And I'm a little mischievous at times. Whenever I was at Vantage Point one time, although I'm a grown woman, they escorted me out of outpatient therapy and made me sit on a bench and wait for one of the counselors there to actually take me and give me my medicine. I was so manic, and I was disrupting the classroom and starting to get upset at something that somebody had said to me. And when it spiraled a little bit out of control, they removed me from the situation. Well, as I was sitting there, a lady came up to me that worked there in one of the offices, and she didn't know why I was sitting on the bench. And she said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." And I was real serious, and I looked at her. I said, "First, I'm going to need a team of experts. And then I started listing off all these other things I was going to need help with. And the poor woman was so serious still that I had to go in and inform her, I'm sorry, ma'am, I was just kidding. I was just having a little fun. So do that. Do what I did. Get creative. Whatever things you think you find funny, well, just take it and put your original spin on something. Make up little silly songs in your head or sing it to somebody whenever you're going through the drive-through. Or there's so many different ideas, but there's just a few quick creative ideas coming from me. Humor Boot Camp. Go.